So, hi, April and Spencer. Welcome to our interview. And I'm excited to have a conversation with you guys about your journey, learning about Tantra, healing your relationship, deepening your relationship, and whatever you guys want to share.
All right. Well, I've been curious about Tantra for a long time since I read the Sophia Code, and then I started reading some other books about Isis and sex magic. And so I had met you, my sister got me for a birthday present a few years ago, just like a little Tantra night. And I really just loved your energy and how soft and feminine you were. Um, and at that time we were going through some hard periods in our marriage. And so I just knew traditional marriage counseling wouldn't work, that it had to be an energetic thing. And so I was not really sure. It was kind of like a last ditch effort, honestly, to be like, well, we'll just see if this works, because then I can say I tried everything. And it totally 100% transformed the way we communicate and the way that we interact. And actually, with a lot of my other personal relationships, how you use nonviolent communication and the intimacy nights and the making the eye contact, it's really been powerful in all of my relationships and in my business, and how I communicate in my business and how I show up. It's been really changing in that way. And then learning how to receive and how to give without expectation, but give from a place of a hell yes. That's been really big for me too. And I really enjoyed that. So I'll let Spencer say something.
All right, thank you, April.
You're doing a good job just by yourself. So it's definitely the structure is very important, I think. And I should say that the creation of the structure is important within any relationship, and that's really what it's kind of provided, is the opportunity to be able to be heard, and also to help to understand the balance of, that both, regardless of your gender at birth, that you're both have masculine and feminine characteristics, and to be in both of those energies is very important, to understand which to be in the moment as well, while either you're giving or receiving, and whether that's be in eye contact, or if that be in touch or conversation or anything, in those regards, it's very important. And it's been very good because it brings a lot of balance.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, let's dive a little bit deep. Maybe I'll ask you guys a few questions. And beforehand, I would like to hear your feedback of what kind of new things you learned, right? Because April mentioned that you guys didn't believe that traditional therapy would work, so you were seeking something new, something deeper, something that embraces working with energy, right? Understanding differences, masculine and feminine dynamics, communication. So I'm curious to hear what are biggest insights about learning something new about yourselves, about the relationships, about the dynamics, maybe something about Tantra that you didn't know before. So what are your biggest educational insights that you received on this journey?
Yeah. I did used to think that Tantra was just about having like a 3-hour orgasm or something, as many people do. And it's funny because even when I tell people that I'm doing my Tantra exercises, they're like, oh, like you can tell that that's automatically where they go to. And what I really learned through this practice and the training is that it's a spiritual embodiment practice. And it's actually the only spiritual practice that heals through breath, movement, sound, and through embodiment and not transcendence. And I really loved that distinction. That really spoke to me, because I have worked really hard to be embodied. And I think a lot of people are out of their body and not connected to their bodies. And then I think what I love about how you work is that you come to my truth, and then Spencer gets his truth, and then you create a bridge between the truth with agreements. And so that we get to make different agreements that work for us specifically. So it's not, and I was just telling my friend this the other day, that it's not you get married and have 2 kids and have a dog and a white picket fence, and then you live happily ever after. Like, that's not real conscious relationships. That's an old program that you're sold. And really conscious relationships are what works for me now and what works for you now. Because even people who get married 20 years ago, what worked for them 20 years ago is not going to work for them now. And so Spencer and we've been married 13 years, and our kids are grown up, and we're in a different place where we have a lot more freedom in other ways. And so we just got to make new agreements based on the truth, and actually creating safety through communication to be able to say our truth and know that, like, our truth is still accepted and is okay to have our truth, even if it's different than his truth, and that then there can still be a bridge built between them two. So
Yeah, this is so central in Tantra, right? It's like the central agreement is truth and growth, and no matter what is this truth is about, it has to be there, because otherwise there is no solid foundation, right? Like, it has to be there all the time. Spencer, do you have any insights to share about the educational part?
The part that I really like, that she kind of touched on a little bit, was the embodiment. And so, a lot of people just go through, especially in the Western civilization, it's like a lot of it is all about thought and conscious thought, and being in the mind, and everything's from the mind. And a big part of Tantra is actually being embodied and being in your body, and really, like, checking in with your body, and the energies that are throughout the body, rather than just sitting in the mind and thinking everything's accomplished with just the mind. And it's very powerful, checking in with other parts of yourself rather than just always being in the mind. Especially, a lot of people just don't really sit in the heart center, and that's a big part of Tantra. So
yeah, that's true. Giving and receiving from the heart, that practice, right? How much difference it makes when we pay attention, if we are willing to give from the heart or receive from the heart. And if not, we go back to that agreement of truth and see what is in the way, right? That blocks that desire to give from the heart. So yeah, definitely. That's beautiful. I would like to hear a little bit about sacred union and how you see sacred union now, from where are you at in terms of like being together and growing together and connecting, having that connection, intimate night, right, every week, and how it is different, like, from traditional marriage, traditional relationship.
For me, I think traditionally, and a lot of my friends and clients, they go on date night and they'll go to like dinner and a movie. And there's really not a lot of connection that happens in a movie. You might hold hands or something, and then dinner is usually like loud and not super intimate. So I think introducing the connection nights that are non-negotiable, and it's true, you do really have to make it a priority. A lot of things try to come up during the week and the day. Sometimes it gets moved, but 90% of the time, we really just like, this is like, we're making it a priority. It doesn't matter. We're saying no to those things. We're not doing those things. And even if like we both get off of work and we don't necessarily like feel like it, once we start making eye contact and like breathing together, we just like really get into a different space. And I can tell just in our marriage, since we've started having these, we're a lot more affectionate with each other. We're a lot more like flirty and cutesy with each other than we were before. There's a lot more of us wanting to be together. There's kind of like, we miss each other more and like think about each other more. At least I do him. I don't know if he does me, but he better.
Yeah.
I really love the practices, the massage. And for me, I do tend to get in my head a lot. So one of the exercises that you give is asking what's real. And specifically for me, you're like, not what's real, like what's going on in your head, but like what's real in your body, like what's
Mhm.
showing up in your body. And then having Spencer put his hands on it and like squeezing and tightening around it. That's been really good for me to stay embodied and to stay in my body. And it does help me be a lot more present with our time with each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, right. Being together as lovers, right? We need to be in our bodies and like listen to our bodies. Yeah, Spencer, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so like I really think that that it's uh a great practice in the way that I feel like it actually creates a lot more acceptance and safety within a relationship. Um Rather than like, like a lot of the traditional stuff of, date nights and everything else, and watching a movie together or whatever, just like spending time with each other. It's just not the same type of connection that you get with, you know sitting and spending time with each other, and breathing together for 10 minutes and having eye contact, and like it's not really, you can put it into words exactly what happens during that time, but somehow it just creates more safety and more acceptance in the relationship, a
Mhm.
lot more intimacy. So
Yeah, yeah, they're so beautiful, right? Something that is not planned, that you can go so deep and like a new dimension opens up, like the Alice in Wonderland and Wonderland. I like that metaphor, right? It's like there is a different world is available if we allow ourselves to like sink deeper and be present. I'm curious also about your personal breakthroughs and your personal like self-discovery journey, because there were sessions when we started together, then we had a bunch of sessions separately for you guys to really reconnect with yourselves and understand where are you at, what is your truth, for each of you, and go deeper with that. So what could you share about this personal piece and like the journey of self-exploration as well in this work that we have done together?
Yeah, for me, it had been a long time since I had done any self-exploration, and it was really seemed scary to me. And so when we first started this, it was definitely like, I just want to build a relationship with myself. And during the first, I don't know, few months of doing the breath work exercises, I would literally just cry like the whole time. And it was really nice to just kind of like work through it with you of like, it's okay, you just don't have any judgment, you let come up whatever needs to come up. And um I kind of came into this to heal some sexual trauma that I had remembered that I had when I was a kid. And I feel like since then, I feel like I've been a lot more embodied. And it's interesting because a lot of people will tell me, even just like in the last couple of months, they're like, you're glowing. Like people just like say that to me all the time now. They're just like, what's different about you? What is going on? And I'm like, I'm just self-exploring myself. And so
Mhm.
so it does make me feel like I've been, like dancing more and just being more embodied, and I do feel more joy and um like more confident with everything in my life, like the way I show up to my job, or the way when I go speak in front of people, or when I lead retreats or something. I feel a lot more confident because I'm centered in myself and because I'm embodied. And I'm starting to really like love that relationship with myself of looking in the mirror and like making eye contact and pleasure mapping my body and knowing where I like to be touched. And it feels nice to know myself better in that way than I did before.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Feminine exploration, right? Spencer, would you like to share something?
I don't know if I mean, it kind of correlates along those lines, it in the way of like self discovery, I would say. I really thought I understood like unconditional love on every level before we started. But there's been a discovery within myself of that I didn't realize how much deeper unconditional love could actually be, with not only myself, with her, people in general, just understanding it on a whole new level that I had no idea. I mean, I'm I'm 45, and I had no idea that I didn't understand it like this, and it's just
Mm.
a powerful thing to find. So
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Wow. Beautiful. Um, Maybe you can share a little bit more about the communication, because I feel so many couples struggle with communication and nobody really teaches specifically intimate communication. Like I did design this program, this journey, combining different modalities, and I did bring a lot of nonviolent communication elements and kind of mix them with Tantra and transpersonal psychology, like feminine, masculine, work the differences between feminine, masculine emotionality, psyche, right, and sexuality. So I'm curious to hear what kind of communication fears you had before, and how did you develop a new set of skills to navigate the communicating in the intimate space with each other.
I'm just getting bright. I think the biggest thing for me was really setting intentional boundaries and deciding in advance like what is okay for me and what is not okay for me. And then just like saying those things before they came up again, and just being able to say, and that was really big for me to be able to say, I don't like it when, or this is a no for me. And to be able to say that beforehand, and to really not worry about hurting his feelings, because it's just my truth and it's how I'm wired, and really understanding that, like, an old program as women and a partner is that you really want to please your partner. But really understanding that, like, it's more about me honoring myself, and then like he honors himself, and then together we create new agreements. So I think setting those boundaries up beforehand, and then asking, what is the truth? Like, what is your truth? And then like hearing and holding space for their truth, and just understanding that it's their truth, and that you have your own version of the truth that is different, and there's room for both of them. There's not only one that gets to be heard. So
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Spencer.
I really enjoyed, like I was talking about at the beginning, was creating the structure, and it's, a big part of it has to do with conversation, to be able to actually have the ability um, to say your truth and actually be able to be heard, right? Because a lot of way that conversations go in the world is that most people are listening to answer rather than actually to be heard, to actually listen to you, to actually hear what you have to say. And a big part of the communication in this is is creating space to be able for the other person to be heard, and that's really powerful. So
Yeah, yeah. I love like how you refer to the structure, which I like to use the term like relationship container. Like this is the safe space where we can be ourselves and open up and be vulnerable. And even if our truth is different, and sometimes like the opposite from what our partner feels like their truth is, it's still, we can find a way to navigate it together, because this is the truth and this is what is real, and this is the only way, right, to create the real foundation. Otherwise, we're always playing like pleasing each other, or like hiding or pretending. So that just never works. So thank you so much for sharing that.
yeah.
And the last thing is, like, I'm really excited and looking forward for our in-person retreat in California. This is something is also included in the program, and just maybe a few anticipation, ideas, feelings, how are you feeling about coming and doing some in-person work, embodiment practices in a beautiful space.
Yeah, I'm trying to just have no expectations. I mean, I have done 2 in-person things with you, so I've met you in person. I know Spencer's looking forward to meeting you in person. I'm really excited about just being in the redwoods and being in California and having that much time, because I know that when we do our practice, just like we're so busy. So like sometimes I'm like, oh, I would like to do this again, like the next day, and like go deeper into it. And I know that what you and I talked about is like your body kind of opens more and more the longer that you're there together. So I'm really excited to see like what opens up for me and us personally, with just being in that space for 2 full days. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Spencer?
Kind of the same thing. It's a little bit like, you start thinking about it and you kind of anticipate and you kind of think you're, like, well, what do I want to expect? What should I expect? And it's like, well, but at the same time, shouldn't have expectations. And that's kind of the thing. It's just like some of the tantra work with your partner is that, is just holding space and be there for what is. And that's, I think, the important thing to go into it with is to just be open. So, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great, whatever comes of it. So super excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited to see you guys there in the magical place. And it's true, we just surrender to what is coming up and being really present. And the most beautiful power that the feminine energy brings in is just like this presence and channeling the depth of the present moment, right? Whatever comes through. And once we build up certain level of skills, right? Connection, presence, all the practices that we do, that all the magic just happens in the moment, in this beautiful, deep, sacred space through connection. So you guys are doing great with not having the expectations and having that beginner's mind, like the Buddhists say, right? And being just open and still being excited about just being there in that space. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, and I'm really looking forward to see you guys in person soon.
Yeah, that's too.
Me too.